thanking our program partners at Nova Scotia Business Inc., who we work with closely during the program. And we're really glad you could join us today, and we're excited to answer any questions you may have on the program. Our next cohort will be running from May into June of 2021. So today is a great opportunity to ask your questions and get started on your application. We know this program will be as beneficial to you and your business as it has been to many other businesses, both in Nova Scotia and right across the country. And Dave will certainly tell us more about that. We've done this in webinar format today, so you can type any questions that you may have into the Q&A or the chat box. The Q&A is probably better. That way everyone can see it. If you do type them into the chat box, then please address them to panelists and, I'm just looking to see what it says, panelists and attendees. And that way everyone can see your questions as they may have a similar question. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dave Archer, lead trainer for the Trade Accelerator Program across Canada. Dave is one of the most passionate supporters of Canadian exports in the country. He spent over 25 years doing business in 45 countries with millions of dollars of Canadian-made products sold worldwide. And I know he's still doing that today. So over to you, Dave.
Hey, thank you very much, Patrick. Real pleasure to be here, and with a group of folks from down east. I'm here in Barrie, Ontario, and I want to really emphasize that, not Toronto. I like get lots of ribbing from our folks out in Western Canada who love to hate Toronto, Ontario generally, Toronto specifically, and I'm not in Toronto, so just wanted to make that one nice and clear. I really appreciate the opportunity to work with the Halifax Chamber and help facilitate or run as the lead facilitator of the Trade Accelerator Program. It's a real pleasure for me. You know, I consider myself very lucky to be part of this program and have the opportunity to help to not only equip but also inspire Nova Scotia companies that to really realize that they can do it, that you guys can do it too. We're going to go into a slide presentation in a minute, and we'll be talking about that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to facilitating this next program. I think this is going to make the third one that we've done with the Halifax Chamber, and I hear that it's going to be extended out across the 4 eastern provinces, which I think is awesome. My experience with folks from down east, from when I've been down there or run into folks out this direction, it's just been a pleasure to work with you guys, and I'm looking forward to this opportunity as well. We typically run in an interactive format. So I think Patrick is going to be moderating with questions that come up. I can't really see them on my screen, and I apologize. I'm not doing it from our studio. I'm actually doing it from a bedroom in our house here this morning. But usually we run it highly interactive, and that's one of the big differences of the TAP program. You know, the one time in my life I had time and money at the same time, which is rare. It's hard. It's not so bad to get one or both. Getting them both is, or one or the other, but getting them both is a bit more of a challenge. But the one time I had that, I jumped into a 72 Dodge van with a friend of mine who had a job teaching English in Costa Rica. He said, hey, I'll either fly down, or if you feel like going for an adventure, we'll drive down in the old van. So I said, yeah, fix the van, let's go. So we left from a Grateful Dead concert in Buffalo, and 12 days later rolled into Costa Rica. Spent 6 months down there learning Spanish and surfing and all that stuff, and blew all my money. And when I came back, I was really fired up to get a job with a Canadian company and help and sell internationally for them. So I spent a lot of time in going to networking meetings, export seminars, and things like that. But what I noticed, and mostly tugging on people's sleeves trying to get a job, and what I noticed was a lot of those export seminars were kind of one-way flows of information, you know, with somebody there in a suit talking about from 30,000 feet about the generalities of doing business internationally. And the upshot was that most companies didn't change their behavior at all. They didn't really get that well equipped, and it was pretty hard. In a couple hours, it is hard to do that. So that's one of the ways the TAP program is different. It's highly interactive. So we run with everybody on the screen. People are raising their hands. I run on an 85-inch screen, so I can see everybody a little better than I can here on my laptop. And we make it a conversation because, you know, we really want to tap into the knowledge and experience that all of you folks have out there. So if we have, you know, 15 people in a cohort, then that's really means we're somewhere close to 2,000 IQ points on the call. We're into hundreds of years of business experience, and you know what? Nobody knows it all. So we really try to keep it as interactive as possible, and that's one of the key differences between the TAP program and the standard export seminars that happen from time to time and delivered by various folks across the country. So we really try to make it a conversation and a two-way flow of information and ideas. So we've got a ton of guest experts come in. They're really good at their specific areas of expertise, whether it be freight and logistics, whether it be digital marketing, whether it be sales. And that really brings up another big difference between the TAP program and some other programs, is that we focus on sales. Guy from the Ontario government here one time told me that that here in Canada, sales and profits are dirty words. They're not dirty words with us. It's all about sales, because there's nobody better than you guys at making and selling your products and services. We want you to be able to focus on that and then help you to build an external team that are experts in those areas like international law, and need some help with digital marketing, maybe things like that. Building a strong external team to do what they're good at, to help you to stay focused on making stuff and selling stuff and cranking those sales, going into those new markets, being prepared, and growing your companies and making more money at the end of the day. And the upside of it is, it's lots of fun doing business internationally. I can't see you guys. I'd ask for a show of hands right now about who likes traveling. And I think my guess is most people are interested in international business and that is one of the benefits of doing it, is it really, you do, to build those all important relationships out there. It's really key to get out there and travel. So you guys out there in the down east are doing really well with the COVID situation. You've done a great job of creating a bubble and minimizing COVID. Here in Ontario, we're having a little bit harder time, but the good news is we're getting through this, and we will be through it in a few more months, I think, or however long it takes. And I think we can all look forward to a big second half of this year and a big 2022. So this is the time to be working on our companies and not in our companies, and getting ready for that big breakout that I think is coming. And so that's again another big benefit of the program. I think I'm going to talk a little more specifically about the program, but I think maybe now, Sandra, would be a good time to show that video about the, if that's possible at all, if you want to share your screen there. I think it's coming up now. This is a little bit about it. Here we go.
What is the Trade Accelerator Program?
An excellent mentor list,
contacts,
a new network,
a targeted plan,
different kinds of government resources.
TAP sessions are designed to help get businesses to the next level, to prepare them for international expansion. We help set businesses up on the right foot.
Coral is a fintech company that provides funding to early-stage technology companies. Prior to the TAP program, we were a lean team doing things mostly on an ad hoc basis.
At the very beginning, the first four and a half years were really tough. Marketing something nobody knows about on the planet.
Signify is a technology company. The early years were really tough. Being an entrepreneur is not an easy thing to do.
We offer expert coaching and planning.
TAP has been amazing. Every day there was experts talking to you, giving you guidance of who to talk to, where to go, and create relationships that were impossible before.
The Trade Accelerator program put pen to paper on our expert plan. I came out of there with a more enriched understanding of different kinds of government resources. I made great contacts as well.
We didn't really realize until after we took TAP that this is a process. It has provided a targeted plan to give yourself trajectory into 5 years down the road. It changed everything.
We graduated from TAP with a much more holistic understanding of the resources available to us as a Canadian small business exporting. There's a rapidly growing interest in curling, so it was perfect timing to think about our export plan. The TAP program forced us to really look at resources within our network, and especially a new network that TAP brought us, services that we weren't aware of.
We had the opportunity to modernize vinyl records. TAP sessions weren't just lectures. There's contacts, notes that I use even today.
TAP really helped us focus on scaling and predicting the future so that we could grow accordingly.
We help businesses grow and expand internationally.
We saw 20% year-over-year growth, like right out of the TAP program.
Within the next 18 months thereafter, we had grown into 10 different countries across 4 different continents.
Since graduating from TAP, our sales in the US markets have increased to account for roughly 80% of Coral's current annual revenue.
We grew our export from 50% of our sales to 95% of our sales in 18 months.
We've grown about 1,500%, and we continue to grow at 40% month to month.
As a company, we grew up a lot, and we're everywhere from Europe to the Middle East to the Far East.
In 5 years, the Trade Accelerator Program has grown from 1 location to over 25 Canadian cities, and we are now diversifying to niche sectors and are looking at the global stage.
Having TAP in our corner now has opened up what the world has to offer.
Awesome. Okay, thanks so much for that, Sandra. We'll be coming up with the presentation. Actually, if you wanted to put up that presentation now, that's fine. We'll just talk. We've just got 4 slides here for you. We're not going to go on, and we want to hear your questions. Patrick, at this point, have you heard any, do you have any questions that have come up so far?
Nothing yet, Dave, but
Okay.
we'll keep an eye on it. If folks can certainly throw their questions into the Q&A. I think we'll probably ask you as you're finished the PowerPoint.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, we'll carry on. Hey, if we can go to the first slide, Sandra. Yeah, I love this graph here. So, you know, I got to say, you know, us frostbitten Canadians are a little bit polite, you know, and so just going over this graph, you look off to the left side, you can see this is a Canadian average. We're at, in the last 18 years, Canada has grown its exports kind of a pretty modest 66%. You can see the Americans are doing it twice as fast as we are. The Europeans overall are triple our rate. And then looking off to the right, you know, the second highest blue bar is India. They've really been coming on lately. And of course, we all know how good China has been at growing their exports. Look at that bar on the right. That red bar is TAP average. We are blowing the doors off the average Chinese exporter. And to me, I think that's pretty darn good. And that's one of the reasons why TAP companies are successful. Man, we skate harder than Sidney Crosby on a breakaway, you know, and that is one thing. There's a, you know, we're polite people. We're popular around the world. We don't step on any toes. We apologize profusely and all that, but there are times to go into those corners with our elbows up and leave the other person laying on the ice, get that puck out front and score the goal, no matter what it takes. And that is the difference between a 66% growth over 18 years versus, and that red bar is extrapolated, of course, we've only been around for 5 years, at 2,300% or whatever that is. The average TAP company, and we'll be talking about that in a minute. Actually, I'll wait till that slide comes up. But that is TAP average, guys. And that's what, you know, to me, it's so gratifying when I find and hear through the grapevine or run into companies that get those big successes because they didn't take no for an answer, because they got tougher from dealing with that international competition and they were successful. And interestingly enough, it doesn't only benefit companies with their exports. All of the stuff, or much of the stuff that we do in the TAP program, it actually helps our domestic businesses as well. So for example, one thing you'll get tired of me talking about is value propositions and ideal customers. This is back to basic business fundamentals, but you will be amazed at how in many cases or some of the companies that are on there, the value propositions get nice and tight and powerful and impactful. And this is for the time for us to stand up and be proud of the value that we deliver. And that value is so important because this is Canada and we are not a low-cost competitor. So I'd be looking for a raise of hands right here to see who is a price competitor. And out of the about 1,400 companies that have been through the program, I think 2 have raised their hands to that question. We don't compete on price in Canada. We can't, we don't have the cost structure, and our standard of living doesn't really permit it. So we have to compete on value. And another big difference is we go after go beyond the US market 70% of the time. So we really encourage companies to don't be average, don't be the typical, oh yeah, the US, their culture is similar to ours, it's familiar, it's easy. because there's way more action and faster growth in other parts of the world. And I'm even talking about Africa. That place has come to life as well. So if you can flip to the next slide, Sandra, just a couple of quick stats. So that number of 1217 is now over 1,400. And we're now at least 41 countries. And again, most companies do choose to, while they've got the level of support from the TAP program, most said, you know what, this is the time we're going to go after the German market, or we're going to go after the Japanese market or Argentina, and not kind of do the typical thing that 75% of our companies do, which is go into the US market and hold. And sort of don't venture beyond that, because you are going to get a level of support that is going to help you to go into those places that you might not have ventured before. We really encourage you to do that, because it's going to make you a tougher company. And interestingly enough, there's less competition beyond the US, because that's where everybody goes. And then if everybody goes there, there's downward price pressure. And also there is a buy US mentality going on in the United States that doesn't maybe help us so much. So I would submit that waving the Canadian flag is a big plus for us. Maybe not so much in the US market. I worked for an American multinational one time, and I remember their attitude, oh yeah, you're just the Canadians. You know, they were kind of those benign people that live in igloos up there in the north of the border. But man, we've got a good reputation out there. And interestingly enough, and I'm giving away an answer to our international trade trivia segment, we have trade agreements with more countries in the world than anybody else. So liberal or conservative, doesn't matter your color or your stripe, both of those governments have done a great job of laying out trade agreements for us in over 50 countries around the world. So we want to take advantage of that. It's up to us to take action, and the TAP program will help to equip us to do that. And we write an export plan so that helps to, you know, it's all a great idea. Oh, if I can get 1% of the Chinese market, I'll be great, I can retire. Well, we're a very long way from getting 1% of the Chinese market from that idea. By writing a plan, it lays out a roadmap, and those obstacles that absolutely are there come into view, so we can deal with them before we hit them. And we will know what resources we have to take those things on. So the average company out there across Canada running TAP, or that goes through the TAP program, will create 4 jobs. And this is one of the reasons why not only the federal government, but all of our provincial governments and regional funding organizations, RBC, EDC, those folks are kicking in money and human resources to help this program. Why? Well, think about that. Government, if the average company creates 4 jobs, let's say that each of those jobs pays $10,000 a year in income tax, that's 40 grand that the government gets per year. It's a no-brainer for them. So that's one of the reasons they're getting a return on their investment. Our companies are growing, more of our people are working, we're becoming more competitive, and it is a big win for Team Canada. So I love being part of this program. I jump out of bed on days that I get to facilitate TAP. Maybe we can go to the next slide. Just got a couple more quick ones here for you. So I've kind of said a lot of these things. We're interactive. All of our folks, we are pretty approachable. There's no such thing as a stupid question. I might come up with a dumb answer from time to time, but we are in a safe peer group environment. We can reveal the fact that maybe we don't know something. We get ideas from everybody else that's in the program. So everybody is approachable. You get lots of ideas. We do a lot of interactive stuff too. So interestingly, on that video you saw, that was when TAP was live, and we look forward to going back to live. In fact, it looks like we'll probably be doing a hybrid someday, because the digital program is actually working really well. Because we do them on interactive Zoom calls, everybody has participated. We generally run with cameras on. I can see people raising their hands, and we keep it really interactive. We do networking through workshops and breakout sessions. We want you guys to get to know each other, because there's a very good chance that some of you folks will wind up doing business together or collaborating on a mutual export target market. If you both decide, hey, we're going after the Japanese market too, let's get together and share knowledge and ideas on that. Again, the focus on sales, it is absolutely critical. You know, there's 3 big risks that we face in exporting. Number 1 is that we don't sell. There's about 45% of companies fail because they didn't sell enough. It's a sales issue. So we really focus hard on that. We do a sales role play, which is really interesting and interactive. The number 2 risk is we don't get paid. We've got Export Development Canada there to back us up, and they will be presenting at this as well. And finally, the third biggest risk is a compliance issue. There are rules and regulations around taxes, around export permits, things like that. We have people in to make sure you understand that. In the TAP program, we don't provide all the answers, but we absolutely do provide just about all of the questions that you need to ask so you can find those answers. Yeah, we hope that you look beyond the US market in this instance when you have this level of support. And again, the big positive impact on your domestic business always happens. You get feedback from experts. And again, it comes down to that inspiration, getting out of our tendency here as Canadians to be, sometimes a little bit too polite and a little bit conservative. And I mean, in thinking, it's time to stand up, be counted, make an impact. You know how the Canadians get in a swimming pool. Typically, we get in just one toe at a time. Well, Americans, you know how they get in a swimming pool? They get in the deep end and do a cannonball. We want to be doing cannonballs in here, and we use things like our value proposition to really show ourselves to be world class. Finally, I think that might be just about it. Oh yeah, we've got one more slide just talking about how this thing, this plays out. So if we could, there we go. Thank you, Sandra. So just a quick rundown. I've been doing a lot of talking here, and I want to turn it over to you guys and answer any questions that you might have. Day 1, we just do our kickoff. We talk about the most important, well, 2 of the most important things. We do company introductions. We want you to introduce yourselves and talk about your ideal customer and your value proposition. You'll get some feedback on that. We'll talk about different market entry strategies, the 5 main ones. We'll put you in a workshop on that. And then finally, by the time you eat lunch on day 1, you will have started your export plan, because we do a business model canvas. Some of you may be familiar with that. It will form the nucleus of your export plan. So you go into a little breakout room and you build up your business model canvas with our assistants. I happen to know that over there in Halifax, you had a couple of great extra advantages. One of them is, her name is Jessica, and I believe she'll be part of the program as well. She is outstanding and knowledgeable and motivated, and really helpful for companies out there. So Jessica and myself, we'll be working with you on those. We'll be popping into your workshops to give you some thoughts if that helps at all. Second, day 2, these are all half days, 3.5 hours long. Talk about trade resources, all those government funding programs, the Trade Commissioner Service, Government of Nova Scotia, and also I guess we'll cover other provincial governments, because I know there's folks from beyond Nova Scotia down east that are going to be involved in this program. We'll be talking about sales and marketing. We'll be doing those sales role plays, and we'll be talking about digital marketing, all that. We're going to be talking about business processes, how to make our companies more efficient. Day 4 sounds like a snore fest, right? Tax and legal, oh no, get me out of here. It's actually one of the most interesting ones, because there's a huge body of knowledge with experts on there. And that's one where we have real trouble staying on time, because so people have so many questions about those issues. That's the compliance side that I mentioned a few minutes ago. We'll talk about international finance. Again, the money side, it does matter. We're here to make money. Yeah, we want to have some fun and we want to be successful, but bottom line, the money side. And I really love how the RBC and others are so interactive. It shows the people side of this, right? It's not just that monolithic bank. It talks, you get to know the experts. And by the way, all of these experts that come in, you'll have their contact information and you'll be able to communicate directly with them. And as well, there's mentoring, which I'll talk about in just one second. Logistics and process, again, how to how to get your products from here to there. Man, some interesting things going on in the world of international freight. So like remember that freighter got stuck in the Suez Canal, the impact that had, but there's other impacts too. So understanding the ins and outs, some of the backups there, who's on strike, all things like that. And then finally, day 7 is really interactive. And one thing we do is we call the huddle. And it's on our last day, we get together and do 2 things. Excuse me. We share best practices, and we share our #1 challenge that we're still facing with our export plan. still can't figure out our market entry strategy, still don't know what target market to select, really having trouble with whatever it might be. We throw it open to the group, and remember those 1,500 or 2,000 IQ points and years of business experience. We put it together, everybody jumps on that issue, and you get the benefit of the entire group aiming at your number one challenge and helping you to troubleshoot it. And finally, the mentoring part. Some people think this is actually the most valuable part, because all those experts, most of those experts, come back, they look at your export plan, and they give you direct feedback on it. So that export plan is not just some homework to do, or an assignment, and it's, oh, this is taking a lot of my time. It is your roadmap to success, and you have people looking over your shoulder and helping you to make sure that you're on track and catch any potential. Yeah, that's a great idea. This and that, but want to be careful about that. That's what the mentors are there for. So overall, I really think, and I think you have also some, the TAP community stays for the long term. That's really on the another huge role that the Halifax Chamber plays in this thing, is keeping everybody together, keeping folks in touch. And because you are joining a community of over 1,400 companies across Canada, about 100 companies, 80 or 100 companies, not sure of the number, down east. And so you stay supported. You're never left on your own on this thing. So as you might be able to tell, I'm really proud of this program. Again, I'm very lucky to have the opportunity to play just a small role, because in the end, it's you guys that are the ones that are going to, like I say, move faster than an Al McInnes slap shot. How do you like those down east? You can tell I'm a hockey fan, and I know my players. I'm kind of dating myself with Al McInnes a little bit, but really, it's amazing the transformation that TAP companies go through. And I just love being a part of it. And we are high-fiving the success of a lot of companies when we hear about those, somebody who's, got that big order or signed up a great distributor in a target market. It drives us. So anyway, I've gone on too long. My mouth's getting dry, and I think it's time to hear from you guys. So I will send it back to Patrick. And I don't know if anybody's come up with a question so far.
Yes, Dave, we have a question. It's a fairly easy one, I think, and that is, will the slides be available after the presentation? Because it would help to sell his team. So I think we can make these slides available.
Yeah, in almost all cases they are. There's the occasional one, and I don't think they present there in Halifax, that likes to kind of protect their IP a little bit. But in the end, yeah, I think these things are virtually all shared with everybody to give you a chance to go back over them. Yes.
Okay, I think Wayne might have just been referring to the 4 slides you showed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So for sure, that's available. Let me kind of jump in with a couple of questions, because we've got some going here. It is a pandemic. Is it the best time to start exporting right this minute?
It is the best time to be preparing to export at this minute. Yes. So I think we've done a pretty good job of taking this program from live to digital, and it was a 5-month hiatus as we geared up for that. The program we find is very effective. We're getting great reviews from all the companies, but what's most important are those results. But to answer that question, absolutely. I mean, I don't know about how it is down east. And again, you guys are a special case because you've done such a good job with COVID. Down here, we're apparently on a lockdown, but I'll tell you what, there's still traffic jams in and out of Toronto on weekdays. There's people in the streets. It's not as severe as, and I can't speak for hospitals. I know a doctor would probably punch me out if I said, because I don't know, and I'm hearing, there's issues over there. But the point is, let's look forward. Absolutely. It's time to be working on our companies, gearing up for a fast breakout as soon as as it starts to wind down. You can see the US is just about back to normal. They're still, their stats are still not that great, but they're a lot better than they were a couple months ago. So absolutely, this is a perfect time to be preparing for the big breakout. I think we've got good times coming.
Well, and I think you're absolutely right. I watched an interview with the head of the Federal Reserve in the US the other day. And his comment was that he expected GDP growth in the US to be almost 6% in the coming year. So amazing growth is expected. So yeah, I think as we get through this, there'll certainly be an opportunity for growth, not only for kind of existing businesses, but businesses that are exploring. I kind of think of the TAP program as a bit of an executive MBA, if you will, in export, because it's relatively quick. rather than, let's say, a regular MBA where you'd go to school, many days for 2 years. The executive MBA kind of shortened up, and it's a little more intensive, and sometimes you can do it in 10 months or 12 months. How does that work with TAP? Because you're doing this in a relatively short period of time. What is the total time commitment required, sort of in the classroom, if you will, in our sessions, and then outside the sessions as well?
That's a great question. So I would say, looking at, we got 7 days at 3.5 hours, call that about 24 hours total. This is over, I'm not sure what the total length of time is at your end, Patrick, May into June. I forget what the dates are on it. It's about a 5-week program, or 6. I'm not sure how you guys have it set up. So that is spread out over time because we recognize, I think that's a great analogy that you mentioned, Patrick, on the executive MBA, because you carry on working. So the time commitment, we understand that you have businesses to run and that you can't take too much time away. So I call that 24 hours or so. You'll have a full day on mentoring approximately. They call that, it's about 8 sessions at half an hour, but by the time you're done, the better part of a day, I think. And then to write that export plan, I would call that truly, I think 10 to 20 hours or something like that. So what are we talking about? So in the overall 48 hours, so that over 5 or 6 weeks or something like that. And you will have a roadmap into your export, into your target export market. So that's, the export plans are typically about 15 to 25 pages long. And an interesting thing is we do it in pieces. So remember back in the day, Patrick, when we would do them live, and I would come in and we would all work together on a specific day 3, when folks would work on their plans. It's different now. So if we talk about sales and marketing in a particular day, then a week later, you will have a week to do just that sales and marketing strategy on that export plan. So it takes, whatever, 2-3 hours there. And then that part is done. And then you might do freight and logistics and you do 2 or 3 hours on that, turn it in. So 2 benefits to that. Number one is it helps us, if you guys are procrastinators like I am, then it helps you to not go stay up all night the night before the thing is due to hammer it together. You're doing it piece by piece in a more of a controlled way, and also the quality is better because people do take a little bit more time to think about it. So that's what we're hearing from our TAP managers, when the ones that are taking care of providing feedback, they say the quality has increased by doing it segment by segment rather than kind of all at once last minute. So okay. I'd agree with that.
Okay, a couple more questions here. So for the the marketing and social media side of the program, do you go in depth on appropriate ways to engage the export market with kind of on the marketing and social media side?
Yes. So we do, that is one probably my weakest area. I'm a bit of a generalist. I've done a lot of business internationally, and I've worked for Kuehne & Nagel, freight forwarder. So I've got a pretty good knowledge of most aspects of international business. And I'm able to share stories along the way, and mostly of the mistakes I've made, the times I've landed flat in my face. But on the digital marketing side, it's not my strength area. And so I always learn tons from the experts that we get on there. So yes, we absolutely do focus on that. It's critically important now. And in fact, it's one of those 5 market entry strategies is online. Because whether it doesn't mean we have to do it, but it does mean we need to understand it so we can make solid decisions about our market entry strategy. So yes, the answer to that is we will have experts online that will be talking about them. Now they have 15 minutes plus 10 minutes for Q&A or something. It gives you the Coles notes on digital marketing. It helps you to bring up the questions that you need to ask yourself or ask experts afterwards. And you, of course, will have access to those folks. They share their contact information and you can reach out to them after the fact. And of course, you will get direct feedback during the mentoring sessions on those. So yes, we do directly address that. It's critically important. And we have experts that are there to help you with in the program in general about some of the key concepts, and then in the mentoring specifically for your company.
Okay, great. Thank you. Roger's question, can you explain in more detail the reasoning behind almost excluding the US as a market, given costs to develop other markets? What would be your basis or reasoning behind the strategy of excluding the US as a market?
Okay, good question. Now, first of all, I absolutely wouldn't call it excluding. If the US market makes sense for you, then that is the market to go into. So thank you for bringing that up. Now, I have a bit, it's kind of a bias that I have personally, and I think it's shared by people like the Minister of Export Market Diversification. I think everybody recognizes that we are overly dependent on the US market. 75% of our exports go there. There's a ton of other opportunities elsewhere that in some cases are more accessible, and we can keep our prices higher, maybe not as competitive, and because we've got a better, again, the maple leaf is doing us a favor. That said, I absolutely, I want, by talking about that, and where your question comes from, Roger, is that I want folks to really consider the possibilities beyond the US market. However, if it is just a no-brainer and it is clearly the best market for you to go into, then absolutely 100%, that's the market to go after. Wherever you can grow the fastest, sell the most, be the most successful, if that is the US market, then that is where you need to go. So please don't take it as that we exclude it. We want you to just grow your companies wherever it makes the most sense. And if the US market is that, and we try to divide that into the 4 major regions of the US, and as we've seen through the US election, we understand there's a different culture in different parts of the US. So we want you not only to pick the US market, but pick which state or certainly region in the US, because it's really 50 different markets with like some cultural differences across there. So yeah, if the US makes sense for you, go for it. We'll support you.
Yeah, I guess I'll also give my answer to that, Dave, which is a long time ago, I was responsible for exporting Moosehead beer. And although we had a pretty strong market in the United States, part of our goal was to further our exports to other markets. And as you say, the US, particularly in alcohol, is 50 different markets. Every state is a little bit different and a little bit unique. But we determined that an appropriate market for us was Sweden. It's kind of out of the blue, how do you go from the US to Sweden? We launched Moosehead beer in Sweden, and within a year, we were the 7th best selling imported beer in the country of Sweden. And our margins were better because it was a monopoly, much like the Canadian market, where you had liquor distributors or a liquor distribution that was owned by the state. So our margins were better. We had more effective distribution right across the country, and we ended up being the 7th best selling brand. Imported brand within a year. So it was a great opportunity. I'm going to jump back into the next question instead of my examples. Who are the best people to attend TAP classes from my business? So there's a lot of people in the business. If we're not exporting now, or if we're thinking about exporting, who are the best people to show up at these sessions?
We'd like to, so the top people in the company we like to have there. So we ideally it will be 2 of you, so you have 4 eyes and 2 brains and 4 ears on it, and you've got somebody to talk to about it and bat things back and forth, because a lot of ideas come out of this thing. So ideally the owner of the company, they're the president and CEO, or if it's somebody that is responsible for your that is going to be responsible for your exports. So perfect world, owner of the company, depends on it may be the owner or the president and CEO. The top person of the company would be ideal, and the person that is going to be responsible for building and implementing, executing that export plan. That would be ideal. So what we don't want is somebody that really doesn't have a bunch of impact in the company, or will not have a whole lot of responsibility for this. That's the key. We really want decision makers and people that are able to action the plan in this. So does it have to be, the owner? Not necessarily. And again, it depends on your company and who you have available. But we do want, executives or high-level operational people that are going to actually be running with this thing. Because that they're going to have the most knowledge and they're going to have the most impact on the future success.
The thing I really liked about the program, or like about the program, is the business canvas. I mean, you're not only thinking about exporting when you're kind of looking at your current business model or your business model. You're thinking about what differentiates you versus your competitors, what makes you special, what makes your product unique. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of that business canvas modeling to explain how you kind of drill down to get to the essence of the brand?
So thanks, Patrick. And so the business model canvas is basically, and some of you will know it, some maybe not. It's easily Googleable. You can watch a little 2-minute video on it, which we do show it as part of the program. The bottom line is it makes us identify 9 different areas of our company. So off the top of my head, the first thing you do is identify your customer segments, your verticals. Is there only one? Is there 2? Maximum 3. And exactly what do they look like? Who are they? And not just, we sell to municipalities. Well, what's the job position of the person that you're going to be reaching out to? So really with a magnifying glass, identifying our ideal customer. And then the second one is, what is the value proposition? Well, if you have 3 verticals, or let's say you're going to sell direct and through distribution, and there's some ins and outs of doing that. Obviously, you've got to control your pricing if you're going to do it that way. But let's say your end user, they buy for different reasons than a distributor or a channel partner than the reason they're going to pick up your product line. And we talk about what those different buying motivators are. So they're going to have different. If you have 2 customer segments, then you're going to need 2 value propositions. They might be almost the same, and they might be very different. And then you put those in. Once you get those in, and you get about 40 minutes to work on this thing. And again, we go full throttle on this thing. Where it's a fast-paced program. And then after that, you start talking about key activities, key resources that you need, and once you get those 2 first ones, the ideal customers and the value propositions that match each of those customer segments, then the rest of it starts falling into place, and you have started your export plan. So it again asks you the questions, you provide the answers, and it really helps with, again, it's the nucleus of your export plan, and you're off to you're directed already by the time you finish at the end of day 1.
That's great, thank you. Will you help companies define which markets would be best for them to grow into if they don't have any idea where they want to export?
Yes. So I believe you guys have some market research capability over there at your chamber, do you not, Patrick?
We do. We have we do. Yeah.
So this is another advantage you folks have. Not all tap delivery partners across Canada have that level of capability. I think you guys in Winnipeg are lead the pack. And so a couple things for you. Number one, some market research, checking into the market is required or is very helpful in figuring out which target market to go after. We help you. That's one of the reasons we talk about resources on day 2 is where can you get information? So the Halifax Chamber has some capability there. Also, we want to talk about, we'll be talking about the key things to look for in your target market. In fact, that's on day 1, the top 10 things that affect your decision about your target market. And then finally, we'll open it up to a group discussion on who that target market should be and get some ideas together based on the experience of different people. And I'm not shy about sharing my thoughts. In the end, it will be your decision what your target market's going to be. But this is one of the reasons we keep it interactive so that we can help you to troubleshoot and find answers all the way throughout the program.
Yeah, and I should give credit to NSBI. It would be likely be more NSBI that has those resources, and Jessica, who you mentioned, who would be enthusiastic about providing some of that information and helping people to drill down. You mentioned as part of the program the one-to-one meetings with mentors. So can you talk about that? How does that work? What does it mean?
So the mentoring, this is a really a great part of the program. And as I mentioned, some people think it's actually the best part. It's basically speed dating. So you will meet with, you'll have half-hour meetings with, I think, around 8 of the experts that came on throughout the program. So let's say that you really want to talk about finances. So it'll be Royal Bank then. They will look at your export plan, at the financial part of it, and then they'll provide you feedback. But here's a key thing to make sure to do. Go into these mentoring sessions with your questions prepared so that you control the conversation and get your specific questions answered. What you don't want to do is say, yeah, I'll talk to the Royal Bank about money, and then go in and say, so what'd you think? You want to say, okay, I've got a specific question. I've noticed our cash flow situation is this. What do you think about that? We're dealing with foreign exchange issues. What do you think about that? So you control the conversation and make sure that you get your specific questions answered. So be prepared, and they will have looked at your export plan. They will already have an idea who you are. They're not going to be starting from scratch, and neither are you, because you'll have your questions answered. and the time flies. Now, I'm not directly involved with the mentoring program, but from all I hear about it, the time flies through there, and it's a ton more of information. So that helps you to fine tune the export plan that you have already built.
Absolutely. So you're going to meet with accountants, lawyers, bankers, EDC, all of those all the folks that are presenting over the number of days. Those are the folks that you're going to meet with in the one-to-one sessions. And it is great information. I'm going to answer the next one, Dave, which is, do I have to be a chamber member to sign up? No, you don't have to be a chamber member to sign up. And as Dave mentioned, if you're in another province, we're opening up the next session to folks across Atlantic Canada. And we'd be enthusiastic about getting folks from other provinces to join the sessions. Here's another question for you. My business already exports. What businesses or what benefits or opportunities would be available to me if we're already exporting?
That's a great one. So the record that I know of the company that was already exporting, they were in 80 countries. They got involved. They were in London, Ontario, and they got involved in the TAP program, and they grew up to over 100 countries after this. So to answer your question, absolutely. You're already exporting. Man, we want you on in the program for two reasons. Number one, we believe anyway, it's most likely to help you to export more and make more money. And the other thing is, man, you'll be a great resource too, that you're going to have some experience that would be great to share for other companies. Now, that's just a side benefit. You're not here to be a charitable knowledge base for other companies. That will probably come out along the way. But most importantly, what matters to you, it should help you to even rethink your exporting. Maybe it's pretty likely that some ideas are going to come up that you maybe hadn't thought of, or that you'd forgotten about, had already thought of. It can't do anything but help you to export more. So congratulations that you're already exporting. That's great for you. How un-Canadian of you. No, I'm just kidding. So congratulations on that. But I'm pretty confident that you still will find it beneficial.
Right. Okay. What if I'm a small craft brewer and I show up at the session and I find there's another small craft brewer in the session? What if my competitors are there? How should I feel about that?
That's a funny one, because I'd say small craft brewers have the highest likelihood of finding another small craft brewer in the TAP program. I'll bet you 15 small craft brewers have come through the program so far. I think that, I guess it depends. If you guys already can't stand being in the same room together because you've already encountered each other there in your local market, then I guess it could be a bit of a personal thing. It's interesting though. I'm of the mind that there are tons of ways to collaborate. Worst case scenario, it might be a competitor, but it's kind of a mindset thing. If you may find ways to collaborate on an export market. Again, if there's a personal issue already, and I know what that's like. I remember probably more than one occasion where I've had a competitor that couldn't stand being in the same room just because of various issues at the competitive level. But in many cases, I also have way more experience with companies that I've competed with and wound up on great terms with them and found ways to get along and didn't beat the crap out of each other over pricing or trying to get that business. And I think there are more ways to collaborate. Finally, you do not have to share confidential information. Certainly, your export plans are held in confidence by the TAP program. I don't even see them. It's Patrick and Sandra and their team there, as well as the mentors. But everybody signs NDAs, and so no confidential information is shared. So I do think that it would be worthwhile to be part of the program. There's lots of you guys that have had some success internationally, by the way, the small Canadian craft brewers. So it's kind of comes down to a large extent on our attitude, I think. And so hopefully that won't put you off. And if you want to be a little bit not so forthcoming about what your specific intentions are, there's still tons of benefits from the program.
I think often too, Dave, people are, they're not exactly interested in exactly the same market. I mean, the US, as you've already stated, is kind of 50 different markets. So, you may end up with two folks in the room that want to go to the US, but one may decide to go to Portland, Oregon, and one may decide to go to, Maine. There's a pretty big range where they plan to export. Is there criteria to apply for the program? Do you know what that is, Dave, the criteria, or do they just have to be interested in exporting?
I would say now, Patrick, you guys probably, I'm not sure if it's you guys making final decisions on who comes in or not. So I don't have a direct impact on that, but I will say that it's a combination of both. Now, I believe that they say the minimum is $500,000 in sales and 2 years of experience or of financial statements or something like that. In other words, and what the point of that is we don't want companies that are still in the incubator. They're just not ready for it. The key is that you've established that your business model does have good chance of success. You've sold something, at least locally. That yes, it is possible to sell your product or service. So that, I think, is what the stipulation is. That said, there is flexibility. This program is very inclusive. So I can tell you right now that plenty of companies with less than $500,000 worth of sales have entered the program and done very well as a result of it. But they get, the key thing is to have a story, have a history, and be a company that shows yourself to be on the move. So we don't want tire kickers. We don't want people that are just kind of, maybe going to just hang out and pick off a little information that might be helpful. We want companies that, again, to the hockey analogy, that are skating hard, that are viable, and have a good chance of success. The government, who kind of set some of these rules, or at least highly influence some of these rules, they want you to succeed. This is a real case of the government is on our side on this thing. And so we want to be as inclusive as we can. So if you can make a good case and you're less than $500,000 in sales, you're going to get a good look.
Right. So I would encourage everybody, if you are that, slightly less than $500,000 in sales, don't hesitate to fill out the application. The application decisions are made by the Chamber and the I after taking a good look. So just, kind of make sure you do submit an application. A question on, services. So Roger was kind of asking about engineering, I think, communications, monitoring, wellness. Are those included? And I'm trying to understand exactly what that would mean. But
I think where Roger's going with that is, I'm a manufacturing guy from way back in Hamilton, Ontario. So I love factories. I like the noisier and dirtier, whatever. Let me in there. I love watching manufacturing processes, and I tend to use the word distributor, which you may already noticed, because that's in manufacturing. That's primarily my background, although I've been involved in services and in chemicals and software and things like that. I think what Roger's getting at is what if you're delivering a service and not a product? And that is absolutely a great question, because we do talk about them. So two things in particular. One is we have a segment on selling services versus selling products. So we do focus on some key differences between selling services versus selling products. Also, we've just integrated into the sales role play. We started spinning a wheel. It was all products, and we realized, hey, we're not there's no services here. So we do a sales role play. There'll be one or two. We do 3 or 4 of them, depending on how many we can fit in. And one and sometimes 2 of them are going to be sales role plays so when you're selling a service. So to Roger's point, absolutely, we understand that actually the majority of the economy is services and not products. And so we absolutely cover the services side. There will be some parts on freight and logistics doesn't really apply. There will be a few of those for sure, but we absolutely understand that many of you are in services, and we deliver content accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sorry I didn't understand that, but yes, you're right. I've absolutely seen service companies in the TAP program. You're absolutely right. So I'm going to kind of make a last call for questions. But I don't see any more, Dave, and I think we're pretty much out of time. So thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it. I would really encourage folks to take a good look at this. This is an amazing program that, as Dave has shown, has had tremendous success, not only here, but right across the country. It's very well regarded. The federal government loves this program. They love it because it makes things happen. And you can tell by Dave's energy and enthusiasm, he makes things happen during the sessions. So really, really appreciate that. Any final comments you want to have, Dave?
No, just you really said it just right, Patrick. And I just want to thank all of you folks who've gotten on this call. I'm looking forward to the time when I can see you personally with your cameras on. And I really want to encourage you. You know, this program won an award, a Global Traders Award of Excellence a few years ago. And it isn't because we get good reviews. I mean, those are all nice. It's because our companies are succeeding. That is what we care about. It is all about the results. And that's why the government keeps dumping money into it. Because it's not, reviews don't go very far in the end. They want results and they're getting them. And I really am looking forward to working with all of you guys, or as many of you as decide to sign up, getting to know you personally, and working with you. And I can just about guarantee, I mean, there's nobody has said they wish they didn't do this. And so about 20% of companies never do anything with it. So only 80% of companies will actually run with their export plan. Some decide, we're going to wait for a year or whatever. We've discovered that, that we're not quite ready to export. It's just a win-win situation across the board. And we're looking forward to having you. So thanks for coming. It's been a real pleasure talking to you for the last hour, and I'm looking forward to getting online with you. And eventually, when COVID's done, meeting you all personally.
That's great. Thank you, Dave. And I would encourage everyone as well. And I would say, even if you decide not to export, as Dave said, 20% of companies may not, this will still make you a better company. I can tell you that, because you'll meet a lot of people, you'll do that business canvas, and I'm telling you, you will have a better sense of what your business is and how you can sell more products no matter where you're going to sell them. So I really encourage everybody. So reach out to us if you have any questions about the program or about your application. Head to halifaxchamber.com/tap to get started. This was recorded and will be available to all attendees shortly on YouTube if you want to send it to somebody else in your organization. Thank you very much, Dave, and thank you everybody for joining us. And we'll see you in person soon.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye, Dave.